Hi there, welcome back to Apatros Review. In this episode, the second of my book reviews for this year, The Deep End, written by Joy Fielding in the year 1986. Hi there, welcome back to Apatros Review, your guide to the wild world of science fiction action horror with me, your host, Milo Sipka. If you want to spell my name, just look at the channel name. Now, in this episode, this is basically my first of two episodes, or at least two episodes I'm doing on 21st of March 2021, my 36th birthday. That's right, I turned 36 today. Well, at least I'm doing when I'm doing this video. Now, in this episode, we look at the book The Deep End, which it was a domestic thriller that was written by Joy Fielding, which is a Canadian novelist and actress. And actually, the release date of this book was on the 21st of March 1986. So, if anything, this book was actually released on the day I turned 1, which makes this book about 35 years old today. I'm turning 36. Interesting, huh? Now, for the story. Joanne Hunter has been having a bad couple of months. Her husband of 20 years suddenly leaves home due to some restlessness in his job as a high-priced lawyer. Her best friend of 30 years claims to be suffering from an illness that could very well be psychosomatic in origin, probably related to the miscarriage she had 6 months before, and her two young daughters are bickering. But the worst is yet to come. 3 housewives in the area have been murdered by a nasty killer known as the Suburban Strangler, and he has been making calls to Joanne, telling her that she is next. Now, this 1986 novel by Canadian novelist and actress Joy Fielding, and by the way, it came to me as a complete surprise to learn the book was released on the very same day I turned 1 year old. So, like I said, the book turns 35 today, and I turned 36. Happy birthday. This was a pretty decent take on the domestic thriller genre, with a self-depreciating housewife who has to learn to take care of herself when her unhappy hubby calls time out in the marriage due to work pressures. Although there is the unresolved implication that he might have been cheating on her, given that the best friend claims that people have seen him about with a young blonde, and she's even encountered by the protagonist on a couple of occasions, although the reality of the relationship isn't confirmed at the end, leaving this to be a rather big plot hole that Fielding seems to have ignored. Although that could be due to me reading my copy from the 1987 edition of Reader's Digest condensed editions, which naturally means that some parts of the original book may have been cut out for brevity. Don't you just say when that happens? Now, and her bestie, her best friend, appears to be having what she claims is a progressively fatal illness and mysterious pains all over her body, despite the doctors not being able to find a definitive cause, and possibly linked to a miscarriage of a half year previously. And that best friend is a career-driven university psych professor. Just pointing out how ironic that sounds. And to top it off, she becomes the target of a nasty rapist and murderer who likes to literally hack women apart in little bits, who is striking the local area. Oh, and did I mention that the oldest daughter has just started smoking marijuana thanks to her new boyfriend? To be honest, The Deep End isn't a bad little thriller novel. It moves pretty decently, and Fielding does a pretty good job juxtaposing the regular problems that the protagonist is having in her life with something that's really quite serious in the greater scheme of things. That had been stalked by a serial killer thanks to obscene phone calls. And logic, hunters, please hold your fire. This was written in 1986 when caller ID wasn't exactly possible for most endpoint phone displays. The only way then was for the phone company to actually trace the call themselves if you asked them. And Fielding handles the mild suspense like the professional she is. The book does have some humor in it, mainly in the way that protagonist housewife handles the problems of a self-depreciating sense of humor in places, and also in her courage in facing her problems face to face. There's one scene where she banishes her to lose her druggy boyfriend, finally convincing her best friend to seek serious help to cure her psychosomatic illness. Although, much like the issue of whether her husband has been cheating on her being unresolved, the fact that the friend's illness remains somewhat undefined by the end, causing another unresolved loose end to the story. And in the final scene, her husband realizes what a fool he's been and comes back to his lovely wife for good. Oh, and she manages to work out who the killer is by working out that the Suburban Strangler is a 19-year-old piece of shit who picks women that visit their aged relatives in the nursing home that his own grandfather resides in, and who picked her as a prime target thanks to her leaving a phone number for her own grandfather, who dies 10 days before the novel's conclusion at the age of 95, and whose mistaken calling her by her mother's name. Her grandpa was getting senile and kept calling his granddaughter by her mother's name, she never telling him that her mother died of breast cancer 3 years before, finally helps to work out the pieces of the puzzle. He comes for her, but she's prepared, knocks him into the empty, half-finished swimming pool that lies in the backyard thanks to the pool company going belly up days before they could finish it. I read this book, or at least the Reader's Digest condensed version, on the night of 11th March 2021, and it took me 3 hours to finish it. Overall, the book is pretty good, although not really standout, but if you're a collector of 1980s domestic thriller novels, this is definitely a decent pick for your collection. Given that it came out on my first birthday, I might develop a tradition of reading it every year on my birthday, so that might become a personal tradition, although I haven't decided on that yet. When I was in primary school in the 1990s, I used to read some of R.L. Stine's teenage thriller novels, the ones he did before he started his Goosebumps series of children's horror novels. And the one that I remember the most was The Babysitter, which was about a teenage babysitter who gets stalked by a mysterious stranger who wanted to kill her. That book had sequels and was modestly successful. The Deep End reminded me of that. I do believe that if The Deep End was ever made into a movie, that would be best suited for one of those daytime topic films that get made these days. Usually titles like The Wrong Teacher, The Wrong Boyfriend, The Wrong Wedding Planner, and so on. And in recent years, becoming the haunting ground of actress Vivica A. Fox. Although while the initial story isn't anything terribly innovative, the way that Joy Fielding writes a story on the page could mean that it could kick the ass of some of those daytime topics pretty easily. So if you can track down a copy, go for it. It's a pretty nice diverting reading for a quiet afternoon in your bed at night. I give The Deep End a C+, 5 out of 10. It's a passable domestic thriller diversion from the 1980s. Also, there was something that amused me about the book. There's a scene where the housewife and the best friend go to see a movie, and it turns out to be a slasher film. And when they leave, she asks her friend, why do they make films like this? And the friends reply, well, because they know that people like you and me will go and pay good money to see them. And, yeah, kind of interesting. Now, so basically the Deep End gets a C+. I don't know if the book's still in print, probably not, but if you can find it, my copy is from the Reader's Digest condensed edition I picked up, that was written in 1987. If you want to find it, it's actually a pretty decent novel. It's passable at best. Okay, so that's it for that one. And this is my birthday, so I'm doing another episode later today, hopefully. I don't know, maybe I'll stretch it free, I don't know. We'll see. Okay, I hope you guys are staying safe. Enjoy yourselves. The weather here in Sydney is pretty bad. I mean, a lot of rain, some places are flooding. I'll get to that later. Anyway, hope you guys are staying safe, and that's it for this review.